The following program is furnished by The Truth About Your Future, LLC. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of this station. This information is education and not financial advice. Sponsors of the program pay a fee to be interviewed. See the truthayf.com disclosure page for details. Consult a financial advisor before investing.
The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman is brought to you by Global X ETFs, dedicated to providing investors with unexplored and intelligent solutions. And by Bitwise, a trusted guide in crypto has never mattered more. Connect with their dedicated team of crypto experts nationwide at bitwiseinvestments.com. And by Invesco QQQ, a fund that allows you to access the innovators of the NASDAQ 100, Invesco.com. And by Edelman Financial Engines. Rick Edelman is a board member, consultant, shareholder, and client of EFE, but EFE is unaffiliated and has no say over the content of The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
This is where technology, innovation, and personal finance come together.
This is The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
And now your host, Rick Edelman.
Thanks for joining me on The Truth About Your Future as we commemorate Veterans Day this weekend. Coming up on the show today, the stunning demise of FTX. We're going to have a conversation with SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce. What do Pink Floyd, Justin Timberlake, and Kenny Chesney have in common? A Ponzi scheme that went on for 7 years, and our weekly health and wellness segment with my wife, Jean. Well, I don't know if you've heard the news. I don't know how you could not have heard the news, but the biggest event in the history of crypto since Bitcoin was invented in 2009, we're talking 13 years ago, the biggest event in crypto happened this week, and it has sent shell shock throughout the crypto community. FTX, the world's second largest crypto exchange, has announced that the company is broke, that they aren't able to handle withdrawal requests from their crypto exchange platform. Now, you've probably heard of FTX. FTX has slapped their logo on the uniforms of umpires in the World Series. They bought the naming rights to the stadium where the Miami Heat plays. They paid $212 million for that. The founder and CEO of FTX is Sam Bankman-Fried, 32 years old and worth $32 billion, at least until this week. And he not only was on the cover of Time magazine, he just recently contributed $39 million to Democrat political action committees, making himself one of the largest political contributors in the country. And now, to help us unwind all of this, to talk about what it means for crypto, the impact on Bitcoin and other digital assets, I'm very happy to bring onto the program Matt Hogan. He's the Chief Investment Officer of Bitwise Asset Management and one of the world's leading experts on crypto. Matt, thanks for joining us on the program today.
Thanks for having me, Rick. This was an event that developed very quickly. Even a week ago, FTX was thought as sort of a kingmaker in the crypto industry, one of the largest and fastest growing exchanges. And today it's effectively out of business. It's a remarkable turn of events and executives putting their own personal interests ahead of the interests of their customers. In this case, the way exchanges should work is customers deposit assets and the exchange holds those assets for them in custody. But what happened here was rather than just holding customer assets, it appears like FTX was lending them out to an affiliated entity who was making risky and illiquid bets. And so when customers wanted their money back, FTX couldn't make good. This is a bad event for the crypto industry. We will get past it. We can talk about what it means short-term and long-term, but make no mistake, this is a negative event for crypto. It set back the market probably by 6 to 12 months.
Bitcoin is down over 20%. All digital assets are down by similar amounts. And everybody's wondering, what does this mean?
Well, first, from a short-term perspective, there's a loss of confidence in the ecosystem, right? This was one of the blue chip names, and it turned out not to be acting in customer best interest. Now, it is important to note there's nothing about this event that changes the long-term trajectory of crypto. This doesn't interfere with crypto's ability to move money faster than traditional banks, to program money like software, to create digital property rights. So the long-term journey is still intact. But we're in a volatile period now and will likely be for a number of weeks.
Those who invested in FTX are going to lose most, probably all of their investment, aren't they?
That's right. As an equity, FTX has to be marked to zero. That's what's going to happen. And this was a firm that was valued at $32 billion, right? Had recently raised about $1.7 billion in venture capital from some of the largest institutions in the world. All of that money is, of course, gone. And what people are focused on is whether the customers, the retail investors, will those investors be made whole, or will they have to enter some sort of bankruptcy process? And that would, of course, be messy. We've had these blowups in cryptos past. We had Mt. Gox in 2014, which lost 7% of all Bitcoin. More recently, we've had Celsius, Voyager, etc. These are not good. The crypto industry needs to do better. Managers and executives in the industry need to do better. There are some companies that are showing how that can work. Companies like Coinbase, companies like Circle, companies we hope like Bitwise, who have been in the market for multiple years doing the right things for customers. But this is the wrong thing for customers. And as a result, we are seeing these losses.
We do have to point out a very important piece of fine print here. There are a couple of versions of FTX and a couple of versions of Binance. Binance and FTX are global companies, and they serve customers who live outside the United States. They created, both of those companies, separate businesses, standalone companies that operate here in the United States to serve United States investors, FTX US and Binance US. Neither of those two companies are involved in all of this debacle, are they?
I think that's exactly right. And an important note, FTX US continues to process customer redemptions. The regulated US entity is working as designed. Customer assets appear to be safe. The less regulated international entity has suffered this catastrophic failure. So I'm glad that you brought it up, Rick.
And so what do you think the reaction on Capitol Hill is going to be?
Well, obviously, it's going to get their attention. They're going to focus on the industry. They're going to accelerate efforts to bring exchanges and brokers into the regulatory perimeter. We need the right level of regulation that provides customer protection. I actually think that will be a net positive for the industry.
Yeah, I share your view. I think there has been far too slow a pace by regulators and by Congress to provide the consumer protections that have long been in place in the stock market, the bond market, the real estate market, the oil market, the commodities market, etc. Everybody recognizes that's been a weakness. I think, quite frankly, we need a cop on the beat, and they aren't there the way that we need them.
That's absolutely true. And I hope and think that we will get it in the coming months.
What, Matt, is the advice you give to investors today? How should people be reacting to the news of this situation?
Yeah, I think there are really two things to keep in mind. One is that long term, as mentioned, we haven't changed the trajectory of crypto. We haven't changed at least its destination. It's still going to dramatically change how finance works in America. It's still going to unlock the creative class in new ways, improve our payment system. All of that is intact. But over the short term, you should expect additional volatility. That means investors need to decide their time horizon. If they're in it for the short term, they should be wary that this could be a very volatile period. If they're in it for the long term, they should remember that and not panic and sell at this particular moment. Quality matters in crypto, and there are a number of quality service providers in the space, and investors should look to work with them and exclusively with them.
And of course, Bitwise Asset Management is one of those firms. I'm an investor in Bitwise and also holder of many of the investment funds that it offers. So I have to reemphasize that this is not a systemic issue on crypto. This is something that has affected a specific company in crypto, as prominent as FTX has been. This situation happens in every industry. As Matt has pointed out, this is an extraordinarily risky asset class. It is new, it is emerging, it is still uncertain, they're still finding their way. There are huge profit potential opportunities available, which is why you need to make sure you're working with a talented advisor and organization that can help guide you to help reduce or manage those risks as best you can. This development is so momentous that Matt Hogan and I just recorded on Friday a 1-hour webinar for financial advisors. We did it in conjunction with my sister company, the Digital Assets Council of Financial Professionals. The webinar is available for financial advisors for free at dacfp.com, and you can watch the free replay of the webinar as well. It's available at thetruthayf.com. It's a 1-hour webinar. Matt and I were speaking to and taking questions from financial advisors all around the country, and you can watch as well. What's going on with FTX and Binance? What does it mean for crypto? And what does it mean for your investments? That special 1-hour webinar, which we just produced Friday, is available at dacfp.com and thetruthayf.com. Matt, I want to say thank you for joining us on this urgent conversation. It wasn't something we expected we'd be talking about this weekend, but given the news, I'm really glad that you were here to share with us what's going on and how investors ought to be reacting.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for continuing to educate the investors out there, Rick.
That's Matt Hogan. He's the Chief Investment Officer of Bitwise Asset Management. If you would like to learn more about how Bitwise operates, I encourage you to go to bitwiseinvestments.com. And coming up later on today's program, a conversation with SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce and her observations of the FTX debacle. I'm Rick Edelman, and we'll be back with more here on The Truth About Your Future.
The Truth About Your Future is sponsored by Global X ETFs. Exponential technologies are transforming the world around us and creating new investment opportunities along the way. But where to start? At Global X, we have spent more than a decade focusing on long-term emerging trends, what we call thematic growth. While many of these disruptions are now part of our daily lives, like fintech and telemedicine, others are making their impact felt behind the scenes, or perhaps under the hood. Think of the lithium batteries that power electric vehicles, the rise of hydrogen fuel cells, or renewables like solar and wind, which are becoming increasingly cost-competitive and more appealing to consumers who are environmentally conscious or sensitive to volatile fuel prices. All of these themes represent vital components of a next-generation green energy economy that is more reliant on innovation and less dependent on fossil fuels. Learn how you can add these and other green investment themes to your portfolio at globalxetfs.com. That's globalxetfs.com, or ask your financial advisor.
Afraid to look at your financial statements? Shredding them without opening them? It's time for a second opinion from Edelman Financial Engines. Our opinions aren't based on intuition or daily market movements. They're grounded in institutional rigor, and all of our planners are fiduciaries who put your interest above all others. So if you need help managing the ups and downs of this market, we're ready to talk. At Edelman Financial Engines, you get personalized investment recommendations from a dedicated wealth planner who doesn't sell products to earn commissions. So stop shredding those financial statements. Let's take a look together. It's time to get a second opinion. Get your complimentary wealth checkup where you can discuss your financial goals with a wealth planner. Call Edelman Financial Engines at 888-899-4450. That's 888-899-4450. Or visit planefe.com/Rick today.
Allow us to introduce you to Tom, an ordinary person who helped shape the future by putting his money behind the right ideas. Tom enjoys tending to his tomato garden and is currently developing the perfect blend for his homemade spaghetti sauce. Tom is also accessing companies that help change the course of the aerospace industry by investing in Invesco QQQ. Invesco QQQ is a fund that allows you access to innovators of the NASDAQ 100, which goes to show you don't have to be a rocket scientist to help push progress forward. Become an agent of innovation. Learn more at Invesco.com/QQQ. There are risks when investing in ETFs, including possible loss of money. ETFs risks are similar to those of stocks. Investments in the tech sector are subject to greater risk and more volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies on the NASDAQ. You can't invest directly into an index. Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Visit Invesco.com for a prospectus with this information. Read it carefully before investing.
Welcome back to The Truth About Your Future. Well, if we didn't have enough to worry about with everything going on in the world, we've got to worry about the stuff we've always had to worry about in the world of personal finance, and that is, in a single word, scams. Scams have been with us since the beginning of time, and scams are going to continue to be with us, and we must always remain diligent. And we always get discouraged and distressed when we hear of scams that have been uncovered and fortunately shut down. The government has shut down a Ponzi scheme that has been running from 2011 through 2018. This particular Ponzi scam is particularly nefarious because it targeted military veterans and older investors. 2,300 retirees, 13,000 veterans collectively lost over $300 million over this 7-year period. The defendants got so many people scammed, amounting to so many hundreds of millions of dollars, because they didn't merely go after the retirees and the vets. They tricked hundreds of financial advisors and insurance agents who unwittingly perpetuated the fraud, which raises questions about the due diligence efforts and quality of those advisors and insurance agents. Scott Cohn, 68 years old, has been sentenced to 10 years in prison, and he's got to give back all of the money. He was giving veterans a lump sum payment for their military pension. You know how it works. You get a pension, you get a monthly check. Well, a lot of folks didn't want the monthly check. They wanted a single lump sum payment right now, and that's what he was promising to give them. Well, where did he get the money to give them their lump sum payment? Well, he was making exploitative loans, and he was providing the money from money he got from other investors. The whole thing was a Ponzi scheme, says the Justice Department. He's now in prison. The question is whether anybody is going to get any of their money back. He supposedly has to repay it. The question is, how much of it does he have left? Where might he have hidden or spent it? We've got to be on the lookout. If you get a deal that sounds too good to be true, you need to check it and then double check it. Even when your financial advisor is offering the idea, this Ponzi scheme tells us that you can't necessarily depend on that. The key is this: ask your financial advisor or your insurance agent, are you being compensated for referring me to this investment opportunity? Because that's what was happening. And second, are you a fiduciary? Because if the advisor is acting as a fiduciary, they're serving your best interest, they are going to be much more likely to be providing the due diligence, the research independently to verify whether or not this investment opportunity is really something you should look into. Scams are with us in every variety, offered by all kinds of different sorts. Let's make sure we keep our guard up, especially during environments like this where the markets are so volatile, where there's so much worry about market valuation, people looking for stability, they're looking for guaranteed income, they're looking for certainty, and scam artists are too happy to make those promises when your guard is down. You know, I've published 11 books over the last 30 years, and I've never had such rapid adoption of foreign publishing rights as The Truth About Crypto. All told, my books have been published in 7 or 8 languages. I've already hit that with The Truth About Crypto, and I think it's reflecting the fact that there is so much interest on a global basis about this subject, and there are so few readable, understandable books on the subject that are frankly fun to read. So I'm really excited that The Truth About Crypto is now being published in the 4th largest economy in the world, Japan. Yeah, you know that song. It's Money from Pink Floyd. Why am I playing it for you? Well, not just because money is an appropriate music theme for this radio show, but also because Money from Pink Floyd is in the news because Pink Floyd is selling their music catalog to Blackstone, a private equity firm. The price? Reportedly almost $500 million. Blackstone has also bought the catalogs of Justin Timberlake. They've also bought the music catalog of Nile Rodgers. Blackstone has also bought the music catalog of Nelly Furtado. Blackstone has also bought the music catalog to Kenny Chesney.
No shoes, no shirt, and no problem.
So yeah, why would a private equity firm be buying the music catalogs for hundreds of millions of dollars? They're joining Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, and many others who have sold their music rights. Why would private equity firms be doing this? Well, it's real simple. They're going to package up that music and resell it. Some of it is going to come onto the market as NFTs, non-fungible tokens. You'll actually be able to buy a piece of the action. You'll be able to buy these songs so that when they get played on Spotify or radio stations, you'll get a cut of the royalty. We're going to monetize and provide liquidity for what has been a highly illiquid asset. It's going to get pretty exciting, but it also demonstrates the development of brand new investment opportunities that never existed before. So watch for your favorite recording artist coming your way, not just with their latest music, but their latest investment opportunity as well. You're listening to The Truth About Your Future. I'm Rick Edelman. You're probably listening to this radio show on the radio because, well, yeah, it's a radio show. But did you know it's also a podcast? So if you haven't heard the news, I'm going to be continuing this show as a podcast. In fact, podcast only starting January 1st. And it's not merely going to be a weekly podcast. It's now going to be a daily podcast. You can subscribe wherever you download your podcasts at iTunes, Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever. And of course, my own website, thetruthayf.com. Thanks for being with me these decades on the air, and I hope you'll continue sticking with me as we move to the podcast world starting January 1st. Coming up next on the show, a conversation with SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce about what's going on with the FTX debacle. Stay with us.
The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman is sponsored by Charles Schwab. Schwab's passion for serving clients is more than standard practice. It's part of who they are. With transparent pricing, 24/7 live support, and a satisfaction guarantee, the people at Schwab go the extra mile to help you on your investing journey. They're not just financial people, they're people too. Learn more at schwab.com/whyschwab. That's schwab.com/whyschwab.
You're listening to The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman. Thanks for listening to today's show, and thanks to Bitwise Asset Management for being our sponsor. Rick asked Bitwise to support the show because Bitwise has just one mission: to help you understand and access the opportunities in crypto. As crypto continues to grow in scale and complexity, a trusted guide is more important than ever. That's why Bitwise has built a nationwide team of crypto experts to help you. So take advantage of Bitwise's team. They work closely with financial advisors, institutions, and individual investors just like you. Talk to a Bitwise expert today or sharpen your crypto knowledge with Bitwise's awesome library of content. You'll find great help whether you're a crypto beginner or a financial professional. Crypto has major risks to consider, including the loss of your entire investment. So before investing in crypto funds, visit bitwiseinvestments.com for their library of content and to learn about the risks with these investments. That's bitwiseinvestments.com.
You're listening to The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman, sponsored by Choice. If you want more control over how you invest your money, you need to check out Choice. Choice makes it easy for you to invest in Bitcoin and other crypto assets in your retirement account. You can transfer your existing IRA, roll over an old 401k, or start fresh with a new investment. There are no hidden fees or account minimums, just more choice in how you invest your money. You can open a deductible or Roth IRA and invest in Bitcoin, crypto, stocks, ETFs, gold, real estate, and more, all in a single account. Don't let your old bank or brokerage firm limit what you're allowed to invest in. Do what Rick did and take control of your future by heading on over to retirewithchoice.com/Rick. That's retirewithchoice.com/Rick, or simply search Choice IRA in the App Store or Google Play Store on your iPhone or Android device. It's your money. It should be your choice. retirewithchoice.com/Rick.
Welcome back. The Truth About Your Future continues. I'm very happy to welcome onto the program right now SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce. Commissioner, it's so good to be with you again. Thank you for joining us so urgently on this show today.
Well, Rick, thanks for having me. I want to start out with my standard disclaimer, which is that my views are my own views as a commissioner and not necessarily those of the SEC or my fellow commissioners.
I'm assuming that you were, like all of the rest of us, surprised at what happened to FTX this past week.
Sure, and I think everyone was surprised. A lot of facts and circumstances remain uncertain.
We all know that crypto is a very risky asset class, but I'm not so sure that many people regarded that the place they're buying their crypto from was also risky. What's the takeaway that you would like to share with consumers about what's going on here?
Yeah, Rick, I think that's a really important perspective because events like this are a reminder to people that you need to think about the full panoply of risks associated with assets. That includes the risk of the asset itself, and then questions around where and how you're going to hold that asset. Are you going to hold it yourself, which you can do with crypto, or are you going to rely on someone else to hold that for you? And if so, what is it that they're allowed to do with that asset? And what are your safeguards if something goes wrong? Those are questions that people do need to ask. And one of my criticisms of my own agency and of I think the U.S. governmental approach more generally is that we haven't really provided the clarity that would help people understand whether and how entities are regulated at the federal level in the United States. I think that kind of clarity could be very helpful as investors and retail customers are doing this kind of risk analysis.
Do you think that this incident is going to create a new sense of urgency in Washington to get the regulations in place that don't yet exist?
Certainly, we're all concerned that people will suffer as a result of events like this one. And I hope that we can pull from that a silver lining in the sense that it may motivate those of us in Washington to really get to work. We have to keep bringing enforcement actions, but the piece that's been missing thus far has really been trying to design a regulatory framework. And I'm hoping that events like this one can be a catalyst for us to get to work on that. But I think for some of this area, we really do need input from Congress.
Do you see the events of this week altering the trajectory of crypto long term?
I hope it's a moment where it reminds people to be skeptical and to ask some of the same questions that you would ask in the traditional finance space, questions around leverage, around counterparty risk, around conflicts of interest. I'm a regulator, and so my predictions about where crypto may or may not go are, you can take them with a grain of salt.
There's one interesting element to the FTX story that isn't getting a lot of attention, and that's the difference between FTX and FTX US. We're talking about two different companies, one of them regulated in the US versus one that is outside the US. Does it lead to any advice that you need wherever there's an opportunity to make sure that you're working with an entity within the rulemaking and governance of regulators?
I think it's important for people to understand that where a business is located and where it's regulated does make a difference in terms of the kinds of protections that you get when you choose to engage with an entity, understand where it's regulated, how it's regulated, what regulatory framework it fits within. Those questions really are important, and they can be particularly important when something goes wrong. So yes, I think it's a moment for us to focus on that lesson as well.
We know that the crypto is risky enough as it is. We don't need to pile on with the kind of circumstances that we've just discovered with FTX. So you've got my support, Commissioner, whatever we can do to be helpful to your efforts.
And I appreciate that because this is a moment where we can really shape how things look in the future. And those conversations have to also take into account the nuance, right? Crypto is not all the same. Centralized crypto is different than decentralized crypto. So we have to take a nuanced approach, but it's one that we can't really undertake that project on our own. We really do need lots of input. So I appreciate the input.
How long before we see the regulatory environment the way that we all hope?
What I've seen when the SEC is not taking advantage of its tools to be a proactive, productive regulator. I've seen Congress come in and push it along. And so that's what it may take. And whether that happens in discrete pieces with discrete pieces of legislation designed to tackle different pieces of crypto, or whether that happens with a broader piece of legislation, remains to be seen. A lot is in flux now, and we'll see. But I hope that we'll start working quickly. So let me just say, I'm going to use my crystal ball to say I'm going to be optimistic that we'll get down to work.
Well, I share your optimism. And as a final comment, what's your advice for the everyday consumer who has watched all of these events of the past week? What's your advice for them?
Think about your circumstances, which are unique to you and you know better than anyone else. And don't be embarrassed to ask questions. I think too many people are embarrassed to ask questions because they think they should know the answers. But I can tell you that even people who have spent a lot of time thinking about these issues still have a lot of questions. Again, I'm a regulator, not a technologist, but I know I have a lot of questions. There are a lot of things that we all need to understand better. So go ask those questions, and don't ever fall for the FOMO, fear of missing out. There will be other opportunities. You don't need to act now when people come to you and they tell you must invest in X, Y, or Z now, or you must buy X, Y, or Z crypto token right now. You wait until you're ready and until you feel you have your questions answered and you're comfortable. And if that point doesn't ever happen, then you don't have to buy any particular asset class. It's your decision.
That's SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce here on The Truth About Your Future. Commissioner, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me.
You can watch, listen, or read the entire conversation. Just visit us at thetruthayf.com.
Did you know Schwab offers a satisfaction guarantee? If for any reason you're not completely satisfied, Schwab will refund your fee or commission and work with you to make things right. You won't find that kind of promise everywhere, but you will find it at Schwab. It's just another way that they put clients' interest at the heart of everything they do. Learn what's included and how it works at schwab.com/satisfaction. That's schwab.com/satisfaction.
What do all the greatest innovations have in common? Agents of innovation. Ordinary people who shape the future by putting their money behind the right ideas. Invesco QQQ is a fund that allows you access to innovators of the NASDAQ 100. So you don't have to be an inventor to help create what's next to come. Be an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ. Learn more at Invesco.com/QQQ. There are risks when investing in ETFs, including possible loss of money. ETFs risks are similar to those of stocks. Investments in the tech sector are subject to greater risk and more volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 Index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies on the NASDAQ. You can't invest directly into an index. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in the prospectus at Invesco.com. Invesco Distributors, Inc.
You've been planning for your retirement for some time, but right now, things may not be going according to plan. If your retirement timeline is shifting due to market performance, it's time for a second opinion. Edelman Financial Engines can help answer questions like when to take Social Security and how you may be able to turn your savings into the retirement income you need. You don't want to postpone retirement. Now's the time to talk to a dedicated wealth planner. At Edelman Financial Engines, you get personalized investment recommendations. Our approach is backed by institutional rigor. We model over 38,000 securities monthly, so we can better stress test your portfolio through thousands of scenarios. And our planners don't sell products to earn commissions. Get your complimentary wealth checkup today, where you can discuss your financial goals with a wealth planner. Call Edelman Financial Engines at 888-899-4450. That's 888-899-4450. Or visit planefe.com/Rick today.
You're listening to The Truth About Your Future, and, we've been harping on a theme over the past couple of weeks, and it's important to do it again and with greater emphasis because this is a big deal. We know how bad the stock and bond markets have been here in 2022, and people are lamenting the losses. This is the worst year for the financial markets in, more than a decade, and depending on your metric, could be several decades. And a lot of folks are lamenting all of this. But the bottom line is, while you can't control the market, you can control your behavior and your actions and your strategy. There is a huge opportunity. It's not going to last long. And to help us explore all of this, I'm very happy to welcome onto the program Michael Lane. Michael is head of iShares U.S. Wealth Advisory at BlackRock, the world's largest money manager. Michael, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Rick. It's great to be here.
Michael's worked with financial advisors for nearly 3 decades. I've known him forever. He helps advisors build better portfolios for their clients. He's written 3 books, including Secrets of the Wealth Makers, as well as tons of articles on financial planning in the industry. Michael, as I just mentioned, 2022 is the ultimate year for tax management. Talk about that.
This is an unprecedented year. I mean, we have to go back to the mid-70s to really look at a year like this. So there is so much opportunity this year to avoid payments that are going to be distributed from mutual funds. You have to go back almost 50 years to have an opportunity like this to harvest losses and establish an opportunity for you to use those losses going forward for the next 5-10 years.
And what is so fascinating to me is that people tend to focus on their returns. They tend to look at how much money are they making in their account. What people tend to forget is it's not what you earn that matters, it's what you keep.
That's right. And what I find amazing, and Rick, you and I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in the business for over 35 years. You've been in the business a little longer, I think, even than that. And most people focus on the total return, but taxes are a significant cost.
So I think this is what confounds a lot of people, Michael, is that they don't understand how in a year like this, with the stock market down, the bond market down, how can there be capital gain distributions in their funds? How can they have gains in the middle of a year of losses?
Because that mutual fund has to distribute any capital gain that they realize when they're making trades inside that mutual fund this year. And even if you have a loss, you could get a tax bill if you don't manage the taxes before the end of the year.
It's a really weird quirk of tax law as to how this operates. And this is what confuses so many investors who are not familiar with this. And over the last 10 years, we haven't had a scenario like this because the markets have been generally rising. So suddenly, as you're describing, fund managers have been doing a lot of buying and selling within their portfolios. And every time they do a trade, they trigger a taxable event on you without you having any knowledge of it, control of it, awareness of it. And yet you're going to get a 1099 in early January that's going to shock the heck out of you if you don't see it coming. And that's why you've got to take steps now. You've got to engage right now with your financial advisor to make sure that you can avoid this dilemma. And I imagine, Michael, that that's a lot of the work that you do. I imagine that you are talking with an awful lot of financial advisors about this and trying to train them because so many of them don't have the personal experience. They've never seen this either.
That's right. And it's remarkable how many financial advisors I talk to on a daily basis who have not really managed portfolios from a tax perspective. And as we approach the end of the year, the term record date, it should become critically important to everybody.
Let's explain what that is for folks, because as you said, it is an extremely important date. So define that for us.
So record date means you're going to get the distribution. And every mutual fund will tell you what the record date is. And if you hold it past that record date, you're going to receive the distribution. There's also an X date. If you buy it after the X date, you won't get the distribution. So it's a very important time of year to make sure that you sell before the record date and you buy after the X date. Otherwise, you could literally be buying a mutual fund and have no return and then have a tax.
And that's the most amazing thing I've seen happen to people is that they're totally unaware of the record date and the X date, and they buy during that window. And that they don't realize is, even though they've owned the fund for really a few days, they're getting a tax bill as though they owned the fund for the entire year. even several years. And they're shocked that for an investment they've owned for days is saddling them with a massive tax liability. So yeah, you're right. We need to pay attention to the record date and the X date. And this is why you do so much training with financial advisors in that effort. I want you to go behind the curtain for us and talk about how financial advisors are partnering with BlackRock to help their clients save money on taxes in a year like this.
And one of the most difficult things is when you have a portfolio of 10, 15, 20 different holdings for your client, and then you multiply that by 100 clients. One of the most challenging things is to actually evaluate what the tax implications could be for your client. How many days left do I have before I have to make a move in order to potentially save my client's taxes? And so the way that we're partnering with financial advisors, we've created a tool that's called the BlackRock Tax Evaluator Tool. You can actually Google BlackRock Tax Evaluator Tool and it'll come up. And as a financial advisor, you can enter client portfolios into that tool. And it will not only tell you what the estimated capital gain for that mutual fund that you might be holding, or even the ETF that you might be holding could be. So, when the record dates are, how much time you have before you need to make a transaction to avoid the capital gain distribution. And what's nice is it'll also give you some helpful guidance on some other alternative ETFs that you could buy so that you could invest in something similar, not exact, so you don't have to run into the wash sale rule.
I've used BlackRock's Tax Evaluator tool for my own portfolio, and you're exactly right, Michael. It is extremely effective, very helpful at enabling me to see exactly where I stand, what I can expect to have happen if I take no action, and providing me ideas on actions I can take to reduce the tax liability I'd otherwise incur. So it's really important that financial advisors take full advantage of this. And again, that's the BlackRock Tax Evaluator tool at blackrock.com. And you can Google it, as Michael said, on the internet very easily, BlackRock Tax Evaluator Tool. It's these kinds of services and support systems that BlackRock makes available to financial advisors that I think most ordinary consumers and investors are not really aware of, because BlackRock often works kind of behind the scenes. Although BlackRock's the biggest money manager in the world and iShares the biggest ETF provider in the country, I think that it's not necessarily a household name because BlackRock and iShares, you spend most of your time dealing with the advisory community than you do direct to investor.
That's right. And so sometimes we're not as well known as some other companies that may provide advice direct to a consumer. Our focus is on financial advisors. We are a big believer that financial advisors add tremendous value to the end consumer, the end investor, because it is complex. I mean, when we're talking about here, Rick, we're talking about how to focus on record dates and X dates and long-term gains, short-term gains, and distributed gains. Like it's not just so easy to pick a portfolio. There is a lot of work that has to be done that a financial advisor should be doing for the end investor. And so we're a big believer in that. And our responsibility to the financial advisor community is to provide tools like the Tax Evaluator tool. So we make tools available for advisors so that they can provide a better investment experience for the end investor rather than working directly with the end investor.
And the result is that if you're working with a financial advisor who themselves are working with iShares and BlackRock, you're getting the benefit of the world's largest money manager. We've had a long, ongoing relationship with BlackRock over the years, and so I'm really glad to have Michael here with us on the show. Michael, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you, Rick.
That's Michael Lane, the head of iShares U.S. Wealth Advisory at BlackRock, and you can get a hold of that BlackRock Tax Evaluator tool at blackrock.com. Time now for everybody's favorite segment of the program, Visit by my wife, Jean Edelman. Jean is a student of the healing arts, Reiki, traditional Chinese medicine, homeopathy, acupuncture, and of course, macrobiotic and plant-based cooking. Here's Jean.
Wonderful to be with you this week. This week, my word is growth. Our best life ever is where we know ourselves, we face down our fears, we have no hate in our hearts, and we can see others for the beautiful souls that they are. We don't judge, and we understand that we are all connected on this amazing planet spinning in space. This personal work can take a lifetime, but a healthy goal is to break it down one breath at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time. where we can be the best person that we wish to be. It is baby steps. Maybe we eat a little better today. Maybe we found time for our walk. Maybe we found time to connect with our friends. Maybe we learned something new. A happy life is a life that is constantly moving forward. A healthy life is to move beyond the hurt and the wounds, the sad and the mad. So my action item for this week is to have a beginner's mind. Every moment in our life, it's the world of possibilities and opportunities. Personal growth has an emotional piece, a physical piece, and a spiritual piece. And so it's baby steps, moving forward and pulling all the pieces of our life and our puzzle together. And so my word of the week is growth. The G is for grand, important and wonderful. We are grand. We need to hold this in our heart that we can make and remake ourselves over and over until we find our best life ever. The R is for rapport, positive relationship between people. It's healthy to learn to have a rapport with others. It's fun to sit and talk and ask questions because eventually we will find a common thread. The O is for original. We are each unique and we are needed in this world now. We all have gifts to offer. The journey is to find them and to share them. The W is for warmth, friendly and happy. We've all met that grumpy person, never has anything nice to say. What a waste of energy, what a waste of time. It is much healthier to look for the positive, look for the good, live with gratitude. Life will be so much more fulfilling. The T is for time. Don't waste time. Wake up each day with the intention of joy and happiness. And the H is for help. Assist, aid, and support. We are not in this alone. We can't do this alone. The biggest learning is to learn how to ask for help. Let's see the light in others. When we ask for help, notice the light in others' eyes. They are being valued for their life and what they have to offer us. We are meant to give back, and we do that by helping others, and we do that by asking for help. Let's strive for the best life ever. Have a wonderful week, everyone.
That's my wife, Jean Edelman, here on The Truth About Your Future. Watch the video at thetruthayf.com.
The Truth About Your Future is sponsored by Global X ETFs. You tune in every week to hear Rick Edelman tackle the personal finance topics that matter most to investors. And this year, what matters most is market volatility, stubbornly high inflation, and rising interest rates. It's been a lot to grapple with. At Global X ETFs, our income-oriented strategies can be an appealing way to help you position your portfolio during this period of uncertainty and volatility. Our approach goes beyond bonds and traditional fixed income investments. We focus instead on asset classes that offer you income-producing potential that you may not have considered, including MLPs from the energy sector, real estate investment trusts, preferred stocks, covered call strategies, and dividend-paying stocks. We've been providing investors like you with income-oriented investments like these for more than a decade through both bull and bear markets. Come, explore our full range of ETFs and look at our research and more at globalxetfs.com or talk with your financial advisor. Global X ETFs.
You're listening to The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman. Thanks for listening to today's show, and thanks to Bitwise Asset Management for being our sponsor. Rick asked Bitwise to support the show because Bitwise has just one mission: to help you understand and access the opportunities in crypto. As crypto continues to grow in scale and complexity, a trusted guide is more important than ever. That's why Bitwise has built a nationwide team of crypto experts to help you. So take advantage of Bitwise's team. They work closely with financial advisors, institutions, and individual investors just like you. Talk to a Bitwise expert today, or sharpen your crypto knowledge with Bitwise's awesome library of content. You'll find great help, whether you're a crypto beginner or a financial professional. Crypto has major risks to consider, including the loss of your entire investment. So before investing in crypto funds, visit bitwiseinvestments.com for their library of content and to learn about the risks with these investments. That's bitwiseinvestments.com.
Well, that's all the time we've got on The Truth About Your Future this weekend. Remember, sign up for my new master class, Preparing Teens for Their Future, How to Prevent College from Ruining Their Lives. College can either set your children on the path to financial success and personal fulfillment, or it'll leave them in a precarious position with no degree, no prospects, tens of thousands of dollars of debt, and lifelong regret. Come watch my new free master class and learn how to graduate college with a degree that prepares your teens for the world they'll be living in. Sign up today at thetruthayf.com. That's thetruthayf.com. I'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
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 I'm sorry, what? What part didn't you understand? The buh or the bye? Bye-bye.
The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman has been brought to you by Global X ETFs, dedicated to providing investors with unexplored and intelligent solutions. And by Bitwise, a trusted guide in crypto has never mattered more. Connect with their dedicated team of crypto experts nationwide at bitwiseinvestments.com. And by Invesco QQQ, a fund that allows you to access the innovators of the NASDAQ 100. Invesco.com. Stay tuned for Everyday Wealth with Soledad O'Brien and Gene Chatsky from Edelman Financial Engines. Everydaywealth.com/radio. EFE and The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman are unaffiliated entities.
Get the truth about your future every weekend with Rick Edelman. It's thetruthayf.com.